Sherbrooke tonight, Mississauga, Brampton and Caledon going their own separate ways.
Economic development will grind to a halt. Housing will grind to a halt if we're not made whole.
I've been waiting for this day for many years.
Caledon's residents will be well served through this divorce.
The province moves to dissolve Peel Region after years of conflicting calls to stay and separate. What it all means and when it will all happen. And
best thing that came out of the pandemic as a restaurant owner.
spring has sprung while the curbside patios pop up. The City of Toronto prepares for another installment of Cafe TO. Plus, the 5th police officer in Ontario to be killed in the line of duty in under a year is laid to rest in Ottawa. Good evening. The references are aplenty already. Mexit, a messy divorce, and dissolution. Whatever you call it, new provincial legislation introduced today means Peel Region will soon be no more, and Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon will become independent. Lorenda Redekop joins us live now from Queen's Park with the political impact of this story. Lorenda, there's a lot at stake here.
That's for sure, Marivelle. And just like any divorce, this one is going to take some time. We're not talking about who gets the house and who takes the car. The items in this one, they're big ticket ones, and it's complicated. Things like the water treatment facility. What happens with that? What about the police? Already the numbers being thrown around, it's not millions, but into the billions.
The proposed Hazel McCallion Act, if passed, would begin the process.
This divorce agreement named after the late longtime former mayor of Mississauga. She championed the idea of Mississauga separating from neighbors Brampton and Caledon. The region was created to share costs and services such as wastewater, ambulance, and police, though Caledon uses OPP for its police. But the region's population has grown. The government says this is about building more housing faster in each city, removing bureaucratic slowdowns, including this added bonus for them.
They are strong mayors, and we want to give them strong mayor powers like we did in Toronto and Ottawa.
Here's the province's timeline. In the coming weeks, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing will appoint a 5-member transition board. Their recommendations to the province will come in summer or fall of next year, followed by another piece of legislation that fall, with the split finalized by January 1st, 2025. All before their next election.
We will be able to work this out amicably.
The words said one thing, the faces of the mayors involved quite another as they listen to one another, with much different views on who needs to pay up in the split.
I look forward to opening our books so everyone can see for themselves the status of our finances and our reserves and what exactly Mississauga paid for the past 50 years towards the growth and the development of not only Mississauga but Brampton and Caledon. And of course, we'll always all be professional.
Brampton's mayor estimates it could cost $4 billion to replace the shared resources based in Mississauga. He feels Mississauga owes them well over $1 billion.
It's like going for dinner and having one party eat the entire plate, give you the empty plate and say, let's share it now. It's wrong, and it would be unconscionable for our residents.
And then there's Caledon.
We're the children, so we want to speak.
The mayor of that municipality, still only a town, admitted she didn't want this split, but is staying positive.
I had a great divorce. I didn't even use a lawyer. And my ex-husband comes and lets my dog out and takes my garbage out. What more can you ask for?
The minister says even with the breakup, the new independent municipalities don't necessarily have to separate all the services.
I think the transition board and with collaboration with the mayors, could ultimately decide that some of those regional services could be provided in a shared service format.
So there could, for example, still be a shared Peel police. And also Bonnie Crombie mentioned one idea, the thought of a shared utility managed by a separate board that each individual municipality would pay into. Now, this will all come down to the recommendations by that transition board. The transition board members, they will be chosen by the minister, but it's the municipalities who have to pay for it.
Lorenda, lots to sort out still here, but do you have a sense of what this could mean for other regions in the GTA?
Well, that's the other part of this, and they're going to be looking into what is going to happen. They're going to name regional facilitators, they call them, in 6 other municipalities. I'll go through them. They are Durham, Halton, York, Niagara, Simcoe, and Waterloo. So who knows what could happen there. We are already hearing from one of them, Durham Region. They've put out a statement saying that there have been no concerns raised there and that they have a strong track record of working together. Marivelle?
All right, interesting reaction there, Lorenda. Thank you. Mississauga is the municipality that has been pushing for all of this to happen, and that's where we find our Ali Chiasson, who has been out there gathering reactions. So, Ali, what is it you're hearing?
Well, Marivelle, Mississauga city councillors are positively jubilant. They've wanted this for a long time. The general public, however, they're trying to figure it out, what it all means and how it's going to work. For some, it's a pride thing.
It's long overdue. Mississauga deserves to be its own city.
Which it kind of already is, since it has its own mayor and council, but technically it's the largest municipality of the 3 that make up Peel Region. Mississauga has its own thing now.
Honestly, I don't know. Good, I guess.
What does that even mean?
Even if they're not sure why Mississauga insisted on the dissolution of Peel Region, some residents worry about what this means for their Brampton-Caledon neighbours.
I would prefer if the system is, centralized.
Yeah, for the city of Brampton and Caledon, right? They might not get the same service that we had before.
It's not a clean break. It's when you have a divorce with children, it's never saying I'm going this way and you're going to go that way. There's shared responsibility.
Municipal governance professor Murtaza Haider says it will be worth it in the long run since it will cut red tape for things like development proposals.
If we remove a layer of bureaucracy that was hampering growth in housing or was being overly prescriptive in terms of what could be done for transportation, public transit or whatnot, removing that additional and unnecessary layer of bureaucracy is a good thing.
Every time we're going to do a building development, you're submitting 2 sets of plans. And a lot of those plans, they already intersect. So you're having 2 sets of people look at the exact same information. That's not efficient. It doesn't get homes built faster.
Mississauga City Council has been in favor of this for years because it streamlines development and eliminates redundancies.
It doesn't make sense that when you've got a regional road and a city road right next to each other, that you're driving 2 snowplows. That doesn't strike people as being an efficient use of time.
I think at the end of the day, when this transition is over on January 1st, 2025, citizens should expect that their water is going to turn on, their police service is going to respond when they call 911, and that the cities will be just as well run as they are now. Except the difference is there won't be additional bureaucracy, additional red tape, additional things to get in the way for the cities to progress as quickly as we want to.
You know, it was Hazel McCallion as mayor who championed the idea of Megxit, that's Mississauga exit, back in the early 2000s. So, Marivelle, this has been a long time in the works. Send it back to you.
Quite a long time. You're right there, Ali. Thank you. Now, the price tag of the divorce remains a concern for Brampton's mayor, councillors, and some residents there. Also a concern how the city will be supported by the province. But as Talia Ricci reports, some say it could also help refresh the city and even put it on the map.
Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown calls it a historic day and says the split presents some positive opportunities.
Obviously, there's been significant economic development and housing that can be curtailed by having redundancy at a regional level. Getting rid of a layer of government in Canada can be helpful for us to build faster. I have expressed a large asterisk with all this, and that is the financial ramifications.
Brown says Brampton has paid for Mississauga's growth for 50 years, and the city deserves financial support for the infrastructure it's helped build in Peel.
This isn't Canada's wonderland, and there will be no free ride on the backs of Brampton residents.
The province has said a deal will come that works for all 3 municipalities. This regional councillor says the breakup leaves him with a lot of questions.
To me, it just goes back to a lot of people have anxiety today. A lot of people don't know what their future holds. And we as decision makers and trying to do what's best for our residents sit here with this gray cloud over us in terms of how do we move our city forward.
Most of the residents we spoke with in Brampton today said they were for the split, saying the city already has its own vibe and culture and in many ways feels independent from the region already.
I think it would be interesting to see it being split into its own region, just because, again, it's a large space, the population has increased.
I don't think anything really, because it's not going to affect my life, is it?
It's a part of Peel region, but they already have views on Brampton as its own.
It's going to cost more money, but maybe the province will help them out, but I'd like to see it be an independent city.
The CEO of Brampton's Board of Trade welcomes the news and hopes this means the removal of some red tape for businesses and development.
In the past, under the two-tier system, there were 2 levels of planning departments. Now, the idea is to have one, and that should speed up the cost and speed of doing business in Brampton.
Jesse Jones, head at Jones & Jones Group, says as a local business owner and supporter of the arts, this is a good opportunity to give Brampton a rebrand.
Whatever is going to allow Brampton to refresh its brand and highlight the many beautiful, cultural, and diverse elements that exist here, I'm for that.
Bramptonians like him and politicians will be watching closely as more details about the split are revealed in the coming weeks. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Brampton.
WestJet has started cancelling flights before a possible pilot strike tomorrow. Canada's second largest airline says talks with the union representing 1,800 pilots are at a critical impasse. That's left thousands of Canadians who were not expecting the cuts today scrambling. Sam Sampson has this update.
Connor Guillet is a details guy. For his trip to Kyrgyzstan, he prepped his wardrobe and gifts for local children. Then this morning, his WestJet flight to Toronto was canceled.
Really did think I had all my bases covered. It's pretty disappointing. I think I'm disappointed that it's such a large, wealthy organization, and it's the small customers who they rely on that are really feeling the brunt of this disruption.
WestJet canceled flights across Canada, even though contract talks with the pilots are still happening. A strike hasn't started. The company says it's preparing for upcoming job action. Customers can either get a refund or a new flight. But just ahead of the May-long weekend, it thrust tens of thousands into travel limbo. Muzamil Murad's family was supposed to meet him in Florida for a cruise. Their flight also canceled this morning. He forked out almost $2,000 for tickets with a different airline so his wife and kids could join him.
He's all excited for the trip, and then having to explain to him last night that Daddy can't talk to you because Daddy's on the phone talking to different airlines and credit card companies trying to figure out what's going on.
The pilots' union wants higher wages, closer to what some U.S. airlines offer. WestJet says meeting their demands would hurt the company's ability to offer lower fares. With no sign of things getting settled, some believe these canceled flights ahead of the strike deadline was a negotiation tactic.
What the airline has done here is played a very firm hand in this, and this could disrupt their travel plans. But going forward, this action and the decision by the airline could entail consumers not booking with this airline in future, thinking, okay, if this can happen now, it can happen in future, therefore we'll look to another carrier.
The pilots union tells CBC News talks continue ahead of the 5 a.m. Eastern strike deadline. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Toronto.
This year, the city's popular Cafe TO program is converting from a pilot project to a permanent fixture. Along with that, there are some changes to the rules and regulations. It's taking the city extra time to iron out some of the details, meaning patios won't be in place for the May-long weekend. Greg Ross explains.
City crews began installing safety equipment for Cafe TO at a handful of locations this week. It'll take several weeks to get this equipment in place at all locations where Cafe TO patios will be setting up. In the meantime, many businesses that have submitted applications are still in the dark about when they can expect to be up and running.
We have guests calling every day. Is your patio open? Is your patio open? No, when will it be open? Soon, we hope. Yeah.
Hillary Drago is the operations manager at Pizzeria Libretto on Ossington Avenue. They would have liked to have been up and running for the May-long weekend. They aren't even through the application process yet.
There's a lot more red tape. We've had to, make sure that we show authentication of all of our businesses. The owners have had to actually fill it out. And now it's just the waiting game. We haven't heard back yet from the City of Toronto when it will be approved.
The city says it's taking a bit longer this year as they transition from a pandemic program designed to help businesses stay afloat to a fully fledged permit program.
This last
3 or 4 months has been extremely busy for the Cafe TO team. First, helping to educate people about what the changes were in the program this year, and then taking in the permits, doing the reviews, getting the traffic plans, going out there.
Things have changed for businesses that want to take part in Cafe TO. It's no longer free. Owners will now have to pay a fee in order to get a permit.
The permit fees, council asked us to phase those in over 3 years.
This year, the cost will be about $43 per square meter. By year 3, it'll cost about $132 per square meter. That's not the only expense. Owners will also have to install a raised patio that is fully accessible.
We got to get our contractors involved. We have to staff up, create the schedule for that week. So I think our goal would be, once we get the go-ahead, to try and do it within 2 weeks from that.
The size of patios are also being limited to the size of the front of each business. For Pizzeria Libretto, that means losing about 3 square meters in length and as many as 5 fewer tables, but it's still worth it for many businesses.
We get to provide our staff with more hours, we get to hire a couple seasonal folks, and overall just create a better guest experience.
It means obviously larger revenue and makes a big turnaround compared to having no patio before, as being a small restaurant.
The city says once they iron out the wrinkles this year, they expect the application process and setup to run much smoother moving forward, meaning businesses should have patios up and running sooner next year. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Patio dining, that brings us to, will the weather cooperate, Colette?
We've got these, mostly it's going to be a good long weekend weather-wise, mostly. Okay. But there are a few areas where we've kind of got these pockets that you're going to have to time things in a certain way. And let me tell you what I mean by that. We'll just start off with the daytime highs. Not necessarily patio weather when we're looking at readings like this, a little bit on the cool side, especially closer to the lake. If you were in the sun and away from any breeze, although the breeze wasn't terribly strong, then it feels a little bit better. So those are the daytime highs. And right now our temperatures, in many cases, sitting right there. Kitchener, a little warmer away from the lake, 16 degrees. But we've got the clear skies, so this is nice. Now, it's not going to be as cool overnight tonight as it was the last couple of nights, so the city, no frost advisory in place. But just talking about these windows, so tomorrow it will be patio weather in the sense of the temperature going up. We're going to be seasonal, normal is 20 for this time of year. We're going to be up to 22. But watch the timing. Sun early, then more clouds in, and then here's your window. 4 till about, say, after 7, 8 o'clock. Yeah, so it's more like happy hour outside, and then just keep your eye to the sky after that. We could have some embedded thunderstorms in there too. Look at those readings for tomorrow. The wind's a little breezy from the south as well, and when we come back, I'll tell you what that rainfall looks like as it carries on into Saturday before we break back out of it into sun again.
Yeah, that's an important one for planning this weekend.
Yeah, we'll look at that window next.
Okay, great. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Earlier this week, the Daily Bread Food Bank held a debate with 5 of the top mayoral candidates. One of the issues discussed was food insecurity. Advocates say the candidates can do more to address it.
I think we've made it very clear that from our research and advocacy department that we are willing to participate and work with each of the candidates to strengthen each of their platforms to make sure that they have realistic, costed solutions that provide hope and dignity to individuals who are experiencing poverty, individuals who are coming to the Daily Bread Food Bank.
The candidates believe the problem is connected with the affordable housing crisis. Hetherington says food insecurity is also an income issue and would like to see the next mayor step up as a leader by taking the issue to Queen's Park so that less people will need to rely on food banks. A new report from Toronto Police says hate crimes are going down in the city after a dramatic jump since the pandemic began. The report presented to the Police Service Board today showed a slight drop in reported hate crimes last year, but the data overall remains high. The number of reported hate crimes in the city in 2022 was 74% higher than pre-pandemic in 2019. Police note a decrease of about 6% in hate crimes reported from 2021 to 2022. The report finds the Jewish community and Black community are most susceptible to hate-motivated mischief, while the LGBTQ2S+ community is most likely to be victims of hate-motivated assault. Hate crimes on transit are also down by 15%, but rising in schools. Toronto police are still looking for a 37-year-old man who's been missing since last Friday. The command post set up at Oakdale Community Centre was taken down, but the search for Nathan is ongoing. He was last seen at his home near Jane and Shepherd on May 12th. He has Down syndrome and his family is concerned. He's described as 4'6" and 170 pounds with a full beard and mustache. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Well, some students in Toronto will be getting a fresh history lesson about a troubling incident in Canada's past. They'll be invited to an interactive play about a little-known race riot that took place in the city park 90 years ago, one of the biggest ever in the country. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson has that story.
In 1933, we Jews, we live south of Harvard Street.
On this sunny day, a field trip to see a play about a dark chapter of Canadian history, the Christie Pitts riot of 1933.
Along with many Italians, that's our turf.
In the shadow of Hitler's rise to power, an explosion of violent anti-Semitism right here in Toronto. During a baseball game between two local teams, swastika-wielding members of the Pitt gang clashed with Jewish and Italian immigrants.
I'm grateful that we're partnering with school boards across Ontario to help make real our history and come up with contemporary intersections with how hate in 1933 still manifests today in 2023.
I am a young Jewish Canadian. I've had similar experiences in a similar sports context. And this, I felt, was shocking. How should this be new history to me?
The author of this graphic novel on the Christie Pitts riot thinks it holds a lesson on intolerance and should be taught in schools across Canada.
I think that sharing that story and understanding that history lets us learn from it.
The play has left an impact on Toronto kids who got to see it first.
Honestly, it was a great experience to sit and watch it and see how it was like.
The way the Italians and Jewish people stood up for each other throughout the racism, even though they knew it could get themselves hurt, I think that should happen more often.
The play, staged by Toronto theatre group The Hogtown Collective, will run throughout May and June.
A banner with the swastika appeared at a baseball game and we tore it down.
The goal is to get as many Toronto students to see it as possible and eventually tweak it for a more mature audience. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News.
Two South Asian Toronto lawyers have launched a campaign aimed at helping newcomers and immigrants know their employment rights and spread public legal education. Kirthan Asasi-Theron has more on how the campaign is catering to marginalized communities.
Richa Sendil has worked as an employment lawyer for over 5 years. Over that time, she's had many South Asian clients and noticed a common problem.
So many people who speak Urdu, who speak Punjabi, who speak Bangla, Tamil, especially out in Scarborough, who were just being taken advantage of by their employers because of the language barrier.
That's when she approached the South Asian Legal Clinic of Ontario, also known as SALCO, and joined Anshul Bhatia to create a campaign called Tariq Pe Tariq. It breaks down the ins and outs of workers' rights through informational videos in South Asian languages. The campaign is based on a line in a Bollywood movie which references delays in the justice system.
It's tongue-in-cheek, but it also has some name recognition. It also has a little bit of semblance to some of the things that Anshul and I see in our practice as employment lawyers. Litigation can be delayed, can be messy.
We're really speaking towards your basic employment rights, which is mostly coming out of the Employment Standards Act. All of this information can be found on the Ministry of Labor's website.
Currently, the videos are made in Tamil, Bengali, Punjabi, Urdu, and Hindi, created by lawyers and law students who volunteer their time. Bhatia hopes the videos help workers identify if they've been wronged or exploited.
If they can kind of issue spot on their own, they might be encouraged to reach out to lawyers to get more fulsome advice.
25,000 views almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost, literally just under 25,000 views. And we've got lots of them.
This project is really important, and I found that this would be a great way to give back to the community.
Nadia Zaman makes videos in Bengali. She says while not every word gets translated sometimes, it's the overall messaging that counts.
We are gaining ownership of our communities and cultures and languages, and we're using it in a positive light.
Now Bhatia and Sandil are looking for more South Asian lawyers to volunteer in their campaign.
Employment law is very expansive, and the more you talk about it, there's still more to learn. So we'd love to do more videos.
Kirtan Asasi there in CBC News, Toronto.
Thousands gathered to mourn a slain OPP officer in Ottawa today. Sergeant Eric Mueller was killed in the line of duty last week. The 42-year-old husband and father of two is being remembered for his sense of duty. Rochelle El-Soufi reports.
Officers from across the country marching in solidarity to honor one of their own. Sergeant Eric Mueller was killed while on call in the community of Bourget. Two other officers were also injured in the incident. One remains in hospital. Police called it an ambush. Many turned out to remember the fallen officer, lining overpasses and bridges as the funeral procession made its way through Ottawa.
To support family and to support the officers that do so much for us.
You know, that man had a family and friends and a successful career ahead of him, and it's devastating.
Inside the Canadian Tire Centre, thousands of officers gathered for a solemn tribute. Sergeant Mueller was a veteran officer with 21 years of service. He leaves behind a wife and two children. His family, friends, and colleagues remembering him for his sense of humor, his lifelong dream of becoming a police officer, and his love of being a father.
Eric lived to protect those he cared for the most. And although the manner of it was so senseless, we tried to take solace in knowing he died doing what he loved.
Ontario's Premier Doug Ford was in attendance.
I'm so sorry for your pain. We all grieve with you as you mourn the loss of yet another brother.
And a message from OPP Commissioner to the officers picking up where Mueller left off.
We have a collective responsibility to dig deep within ourselves, to find the courage, strength, and resolve needed in these unprecedented times.
The investigation into what happened is still ongoing, and Ontario's police watchdog has launched its own investigation after evidence surfaced suggesting that an officer discharged his firearm at the scene. A 39-year-old man has been charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Rochelle El-Soufi, CBC News, Ottawa.
As the Prime Minister arrives in Hiroshima for this year's G7 summit, the focus is glaringly clear. By holding the meetings in that tragic, historic city, Japan is reminding the world of the destruction that comes with war and nuclear weapons. As Ashley Burke reports, it's the second grim reminder for Canada this week.
The shadow of 2 past wars hung over Prime Minister Justin Trudeau heading into the G7. The first in South Korea, where he joined a group of youth to hike to the scene of the Battle of Kapyong, one of the key fights for Canadian troops during the Korean War. Trudeau then touched down in Hiroshima, Japan, a historic city that almost 80 years ago was destroyed. The U.S. dropped the world's first atomic bomb, killing tens of thousands of people. Japan's Prime Minister lobbied to hold a 3-day summit here in his hometown to push for a world without any nuclear weapons as Russia's president threatens to unleash his on Ukraine. Survivors of the atomic bomb want G7 leaders to do that without using nuclear weapons. This survivor of the bombing says she wants G7 leaders to seriously acknowledge the inhumanity of nuclear weapons. They are weapons that can destroy mankind, she said.
Nuclear weapons is increasing again.
And North Korea is developing and strengthening its nuclear arsenal. China is building up its strategic nuclear forces very quickly. Russia is suggesting possible use of nuclear weapons. That's really bad.
Japan's president wants G7 countries to pledge to move towards disarmament. As the G7 gets underway, a key agenda item is continuing to support Ukraine. A government official said that Canada also wants to take a leadership role to try and help lower and middle income countries with a range of issues, including food and energy security. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Hiroshima.
Today, residents of Valley View, Alberta got the news they've been waiting for. They're being allowed to return to their homes. About 12,000 people are still not able to go back, with 92 fires across the province still burning. And air quality advisories from wildfire smoke remain in place for much of Alberta. More than 2,500 crews are battling fires in the province. Support is being provided from other parts of the country, the Canadian military, and the U.S. One firefighter suffered serious injuries near East Prairie Métis settlement. His family says he's in a coma in an Edmonton hospital. Hot and dry conditions are in the forecast, which means difficult days ahead for fire crews. The Alberta government's response to the wildfire emergency will loom large in the upcoming provincial election, and so will the future of health care in the province. The United Conservative government has been pushing a for-profit surgery plan, but research that's just been made public suggests it's not working as promised. Christine Birak has the details.
The report is titled Failing to Deliver. It looks at a plan Alberta announced in 2020 to speed up surgeries. The province is spending $400 million taxpayer dollars to send patients into charter or private for-profit clinics to increase the number of surgeries and hopefully reduce wait times. But researchers say, here's what's actually happening.
Instead of increasing capacity overall and increasing the number of surgeries that the province performed, what we saw is the exact opposite.
Through Freedom of Information requests, researchers found there was a 6% decline in total surgeries done over 3 years. As taxpayer-funded surgeries in private for-profit clinics increased almost 50%, hospital surgical activity fell 12%. Researchers say both systems are now competing for the same healthcare workers. As more professionals leave the public system for higher pay, waits in the public system will get longer.
There is no question that it's coming at the expense of staffing in our public hospitals in Alberta and really constraining the ability of public hospitals in Alberta to ramp up surgeries.
Aside from cataract surgeries, Alberta has among the longest waits in Canada now for priority procedures. Before the Alberta Surgical Initiative, 64% of Albertans needing hip replacement surgery had it within 6 months. In 2022, that number had fallen to 38%, even below the Canadian average.
If it was an easy fix, a big fix for the struggles that healthcare systems are having around the world, we would know. They've been researching this for a long time, so the findings are for me, are not surprising at all.
Tim Caulfield teaches health law at the University of Alberta. He says market forces do not work well in healthcare, even when politicians double down on them.
The data is pretty consistent, right? When you have public and for-profit, it's usually more expensive. There's no evidence it's more efficient.
Caulfield says Canadians deserve timely care, and provincial leaders should be looking towards new evidence-based ideas to deliver it. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, I think it's time for our deeper dive into what's up for the weekend.
Yes, we're going to look at that across the nation, but of course we're going to get into what's happening here through the GTA. I did want to just start with this because we're talking about the situation in Western Canada and the fires, and I have been showing on multiple nights here for the last few weeks the smoke in the atmosphere, and it has never been as extensive in terms of how widespread it is that I've seen it today. So I'm going to lay it on now. You're thinking, well, I don't see anything. let me put that layer onto my graphic. And if you have been with us watching, if you're a regular viewer, then you notice just how incredible this is. And keeping in mind, some of this, yes, is at the surface, but a lot of this product is picking up what's in the upper atmosphere, sliding all the way down there towards the mid-Atlantic. At times, we know it comes in and out of our skies. We've seen that today with the hazy conditions. It gives the brilliant sunsets with the very, very orange sun and skies. So the air quality statement, this has actually shrunk a little bit. At one point, we'd seen that all the way spilling over into Manitoba. It's still a very wide area. But keeping in mind, this is where it's a respiratory concern. This is at the surface where they're dealing with this. So it's a health hazard for sure. In terms of improvement and rain, it's not there. We did just cross the system, though, coming back to the lower Great Lakes. That's what I want to talk to everyone about for this holiday weekend. So here we are, current temperatures on the cool side. We have clear conditions overnight tonight. We'll have sun tomorrow morning, then some fair weather cloud. And then I'm going to pause it right here, because if you're going to be on a patio, you may want to be thinking happy hour and then start putting your eyes to the sky as we get into the later evening. Some embedded thunderstorms in here on Friday into Friday night. Saturday early, some wet weather. At times could be a little heavier. And then improvement as we get into the second half of the day on Saturday. It may take some time, a little sluggish, certainly in Eastern Ontario if you are traveling. But there will be improvement. And boy, it's going to be much clearer as we go into Sunday and Victoria Day Monday, where we'll have the sun back. Temperatures tonight, a low for Toronto of 6 degrees. The temperature story up and down. Up tomorrow with a strong south to southwesterly breeze ahead of that rain. So there it is. Then you see the dips. It ebbs and flows, but Sunday, Monday really looking good, and tomorrow's not bad.
Okay, well, Friday drinks it is then, Colette.
See you on the patio,
Yeah,
Maribel.
right? Thank you.
You're welcome.
A Toronto mother has spent the last 5 years fighting for her adopted child to be treated the same as other children. Since 2009, many children adopted from outside Canada don't have the same citizenship rights as kids born on Canadian soil. Parents say that has to change. Kate McKenna explains.
That was our first day together in Zambia. We just got him and he never stopped smiling.
The day they met their son, Nathaniel, Kat Lantang and her partner, Graham Ball, say their lives changed forever. The Toronto couple spent years trying to adopt.
When Nathaniel came into our lives, it was a miracle.
They're excited to watch Nathaniel grow and flourish in Canada. But as he gets older, there will be one thing that sets him apart from his other Canadian friends.
There's a two-tiered system, and he does not share the same rights and values as any other Canadian citizen, simply because he's adopted and was born in another country.
Unlike a Canadian-born person, if Nathaniel as an adult has children overseas, they won't automatically be Canadians. It's part of a 2009 reform to crack down on the number of people who hold Canadian passports who spend little or no time in the country. If you're born outside Canada and your kids are also born abroad, they don't automatically qualify for Canadian citizenship. The change was never meant to affect adopted kids, but it does.
It's identifying a target, but it's missing that target, and it's hitting other individuals who it never meant to deal with.
The Conservative NDP Member of Parliament Jenny Kwan is working to expand the bill currently before committee. She wants to ensure citizens who have a meaningful connection to the country can pass on their citizenship, even if their children are born outside of Canada.
That has huge ramifications for people. And so I've talked to families who are impacted in that way, and they're desperate.
Everybody's very anxious. We're sort of biting our nails.
Lantang says she's pleading with MPs to support the change. It is still several steps away from becoming law, but Lantang says if it does, it'll change her son's life, as well as the lives of thousands of young Canadians. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX was flat. The Dow rose 115 points, and the dollar traded down to 74.07 cents US. We'll be right back. Any Disney fans in your house? The Little Mermaid swims into Toronto tonight. A premiere is being held at the TIFF Bell Light Box. Our Jackson Weaver is there live for us tonight. Jackson, a Canadian star, has a prominent role in this movie.
Yes, absolutely. Canadian Star has a big role in this movie. I'm a big fan. I'm sure you're a big fan. I'm here with Jacob Tremblay. Now, he is Vancouver's Wonder. You were in Room, fantastic, big star. Now you're Flounder. I don't think that we've seen a lot of the musical theater from you, but we get to see you sing. We get to hear you sing. Where did that come from? Justin Bieber helped you out with the Lonely music video?
No, but he definitely should have. Yeah, no, it was my first time doing anything musical before. And luckily, my voice hadn't changed so much yet, so it was easier for me to hit the higher notes, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your voice hasn't changed that much. I believe this was recording a year or two ago. Now, I think this might be our last, little kid Jacob role that we know. Is there any butterflies about you going into, like, the future, the grown-up Jacob Tremblay?
No butterflies, but I think it's really cool to kind of have that where I can look back at movies I did and then remember, I guess, certain parts of my childhood. I think that's really cool that I get to do that.
Well, I mean, you're a voice actor aficionado now, Harley Quinn, Luca, of course, now Flounder. This is a character that we all know and love. Were there any fears about going into this? I know there's some confusion, or not confusion, but butterflies over the realism of Flounder that we see this time around.
Yeah, no, I was definitely nervous going into it just because I guess just like recreating a character there's a lot of pressure to that. But I will say, after being on set with everyone, all that pressure kind of lifted because everyone was so welcoming and so kind and easy to work with on set. Yeah, we were just there having a good time.
And you're there with a fantastic Halle Bailey. Now, another thing I'm curious about is, what kind of roles, what do you want your future to look like as an actor? Who's helping you choose where you go from here?
I guess it's just what comes my way, I guess. I mean, I like to do all different types of genres, so any chance I get just to try something new. I mean, this is like a musical, I guess, so I can check that off the box. So.
Yeah, you did a fantastic job in that musical. Now, again, you're playing Flounder. I know you had some jokes about maybe being Prince Eric a few years ago when you were announcing this role. If you could be anybody else, who do you think you would be in Little Mermaid?
Definitely Ariel. I mean, she just has the best role. No, I don't know. I think maybe I could give Scuttle a go. Maybe get a better raspier voice for that, but yeah.
I mean, to end it off here, of course, this movie's coming out next week. We get the screener here tonight for a few lucky fans. What do you want kids, what do you want fans to take away from this new version of The Little Mermaid?
What I think is cool about this new version is that it goes in depth into new characters, so I'm really hoping that people take away the new songs that they've added for that.
I just want to say thank you so much. Congratulations on this, and I hope this is a fantastic night in Toronto for some of your Canadian fans.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Really great to see how much he's grown up too and what he has in store for the future. Yeah. Thank you for this, Jackson.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. We're still a few years away from the 2026 World Cup, where Toronto will be one of the host cities. Today, though, the city unveiled the branding campaign called We Are 26.
Look at all the things that this city does. We're ready for this. The stadium is a testament to that, and the city that has this reputation as sort of being a world in a city can do events like this. So the list is long, but we've got the chops to do it, and this city is gonna pull it off.
Toronto is one of the 16 cities hosting World Cup games across North America. The city sees the World Cup as a huge opportunity to showcase Toronto to the world and expects it will make a huge economic and cultural impact. The broader tournament brand reveal goes tonight in Los Angeles. Well, in the spirit of Asian Heritage Month, the 35th Toronto International Dragon Boat Race Festival kicked off today. An eye-dotting ceremony was held this morning to mark the occasion.
So today is our official eye-dotting ceremony. So June 17th and 18th on Center Island is the official Dragon Boat Race Festival, but today is the kickoff of it. So we, as per tradition, we dot the I's, we wake up the dragons. We have a monk ceremony as well to bless the actual Dragon Boat Race Festival.
About 120 teams from around the world are expected to compete. The festival is organized with the Toronto Chinese Business Association. Over 80,000 visitors are expected to be in attendance at Center Island on June 17th and 18th. Dragon boat racing is an ancient Chinese tradition dating back over 2,000 years and was held to avert misfortune and appease the rain gods for prosperity. Little bit of rain coming up for us, it sounds like, Colette.
Yes, speaking of those rain gods, we do have some in the forecast with the holiday weekend coming our way too. We'll have more dry conditions than we'll have wet, but still going into it, we have this system headed our way. So tomorrow we start off with sunshine and some fair weather. Cloud moves in, a nice afternoon, breezy conditions, those winds out of the south to southwest, and our temperature goes a little above seasonal, up to 22 degrees. But now we're starting this 6 p.m., right? So as we get into the evening hours, that chance, seeing that rain moving through the GTA is enhanced overnight as well. A few embedded thunderstorms, so there could be some heavier downpours. Carries on into Saturday morning, and then we gradually get some improvement into Saturday afternoon. A little bit of a wraparound there through the evening, but it will be a drying trend for the latter half of the day, and then it sets us up for sunshine for the rest of the holiday weekend. Tonight, 6, 22 there. Tomorrow, before that rain moves on in, then a little cooler behind at 16, and then there you go with the sun and the temperatures up and then down again.
And those little fireworks on Monday, too.
Yes, for Victoria Day.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Good night, everyone.